Self-Publishing Podcast, episode number 164.
This episode of the Self-Publishing Podcast is brought to you by 99 Designs, the online marketplace that helps you get outstanding book cover designs.
Hold on a second. This means I don't care. Hold on. Hey, everybody, intrusion of my children.
For you YouTube viewers, you get to hear Johnny scream at his kids.
Wow. I wonder if we're going to get a live beating.
You little fuckers!
Do you think he calls them little fuckers?
I doubt Johnny's ever said that, but I can see Johnny snapping. All work and no play makes Johnny a dull boy.
I wish there was a way I could restart that. But there's no, I don't want to make a new hangout and stuff. So everybody just gets, that's bonus content. Bonus content, my children worrying about the weather radio, which goes off every 3 seconds going off, and me going like this, it's okay, I don't care. It's fine, it's fine. It's like a wind warning or something where that's not a problem.
All right, we get those, and we get them at like 1 in the morning, which makes me want to punch it.
I know.
I'm so mad.
All right, so let's try this again. I started a new audio file. No viewers, but you know people are going to watch this in archive content, which is great. All right, so let me go ahead and start this again. Self-Publishing Podcast, episode number 164.
This episode of the Self-Publishing Podcast is brought to you by 99 Designs, the online marketplace that helps you get outstanding book cover designs at an affordable price. Start your custom design today at 99designs.com/SPP and enjoy a free Power Pack upgrade valued at $99.
Welcome to the Self-Publishing Podcast, where if you want something done right, you've got to do it yourself. And now, here are your hosts, three goths who spend most of their time up in the trees, Johnny, Sean, and Dave.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Self-Publishing Podcast, the podcast that follows three full-time authors. We attempt to change the face of indie publishing. Join us and our trailblazing guests as we shove aside boundaries, freely experiment, and occasionally screw up. I'm Johnny B. Truant, and my co-hosts are, as usual, Sean Platt and David Wright. Pulling out the goths in trees. I'm trying to do a best of, because when we move to SPP 2.0, we won't have him anymore. It's gonna be a little sad, but it's gonna be more pro. Like this is, you guys will be able to say that you were OGs. You were here before it was cool, or well, it was still uncool. Yeah, Dave's leaving. He didn't like that.
Dave's leaving early. See, Dave's like, you know what? I'm not.
He's like, after that start, really, where is there to go but down? Anyway. So continuing on, today we're going to talk about, what are we talking about? I already forgot. Oh, finding new angles on old ideas. So this is in some ways, Dave is our constant guy who says, I think somebody did that once before, therefore you better not do that.
Right. Oh, we were talking about, because we have several ideas for different shows that we want to do right now, and we're trying to find that line where, is that something we want to talk about right now? Do we want to save that for 2.0? And so we were hashing out a lot of different ideas, and I said, hey, we could talk about the new idea, because Dave and I just yesterday came up with a book idea, which as of 10 minutes ago, Dave isn't sure he wants to commit to, which is just hilarious.
Well, it's an idea we talked about before too.
Yeah. To be fair, there's like 3 ideas that I've done that Dave considered at some point too, so you never know, like, right? I'm just, as a matter of fact, why don't you just explain this idea to me, and I'll just do it.
So it's a grand idea. I'm really excited about it, and Dave's major objection was, but maybe somebody's done something like that kind of sort of before.
Well, I know for a fact somebody's.
Yeah. Okay, we'll talk about it during the actual topic, but that was just that ended up being, well, that's perfect, let's talk about that then. We'll dissect that, because I think that is something that keeps a lot of writers from writing, and telling their story.
There you go. So anything cool happened with you guys this week?
You know what, I don't know, maybe it was Garrett, somebody sent me a link. No, I think it was Dave, actually. Sent a link in Slack maybe a week ago that was like 3 minutes it was a Tarantino thing, and I think it's so perfectly in alignment with what we're talking about today. I want to share that. Well, I'll need to get the link and put it in the show notes.
I don't think it was me.
Yeah, I think it was. No, I think it was you. It was 3 minutes of side-by-side comparisons.
Oh yeah.
So it was you, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it was 3.5 minutes or so of side-by-side comparisons of previous movies and then Tarantino's versions, where he's basically copy and pasting a certain framing of a scene. Some of them are really stupid, like a guy driving and a guy driving, which, like, okay, clearly he's not copying, but some of them are so exact. Like there's one shot from Kill Bill Volume 2 where the sheriff is driving and all his sunglasses are lined up on the dashboard. He very liberally steals from everybody, and he's not shy about it. You can put those side by side comparisons out there because they are so exact. It's not like there's inference. And, I think maybe he got this from there. No, it's so exact. You know exactly where he's pulling it from. But he ends up making something that is incredibly unique. And when you're watching a Tarantino movie, you know exactly within 5 minutes what kind of movie you're watching and whose voice that is. And I think that that's something we want to explore in today's topic, and it's something very cool. I love that Dave showed that.
So that's kind of a bridging thing there. It's kind of a something cool. It's kind of a on-topic thing. So I feel the need to almost go into the topic, because we're right on it. Like, why artificially?
Cool.
Oh, you have nothing cool?
Nothing at all.
Okay, well then why don't we just start talking about it, and then if there's need to interrupt ourselves at some point, go ahead.
Is Sean skipping out for you?
Yeah, Sean's skipping out. So it's finally him. Sean, he just has shitty internet. It can't be like you and me, Dave.
All right, well, I withdraw then.
All right.
We won't get pregnant.
As you should. So where's the best place to begin? I'm trying to think of. We have a counterexample in Invasion, or an example, I guess. But what was that was an app example. But we've had several things where.
We could do the app example because it still applies.
Same concept.
Yeah, John Farrago sent us an email.
Hey, John.
A couple of weeks ago.
Hope that wasn't a confidential email.
Well, too late. Redacted sent us it may or may not have been John Farrago. Sent us an email, and it was John's, he's concerned about us. He wants to make sure that we're not making any mistakes. He doesn't realize that making mistakes is on brand for us. And we were talking about the Masterbeats app. And he wanted to let us know that there was another app out there that was, for intended to, create stories, help outline stories, and it was very sweet. He was genuinely concerned that we were going to do an app that somebody else had done before, and my response to the email was just like, I could not care less, because there's a ton of apps out there that help you outline stories. There's a ton of workout apps and pedometer apps and reading apps and apps of every single shape and size. Mariner Software, I think, has just one company has 3 different story outline apps.
Angry Birds.
How you want to take it. Right. There's so many versions of that same game. So that's just not a concern at all. My concern differentiate ourselves.
I was just going to say that we should vote Sean off the show today. It's usually me, which is going to be strange. Maybe you and I have such good rapport, Dave.
Oh, am I skipping out terribly? All right, I won't talk much. Sorry.
Oh no! Now it's going to be awkward. Now it's going to be awkward. One of the things that there's a lot with Invasion. So Invasion is it's an alien invasion story, surprise, surprise. And that's one of the reasons that we wanted to write it, is because we said we've written a whole bunch of stuff. We've gone broad, and now we'd like to this is one we haven't done, and it's popular, and we want to do it. And there's a lot of stories in the alien invasion genre. And one of the things that we get, this is a pro and a con. I wish Sean were here to hear this and weigh in on it. But hey, it's too much to ask that he'd be here for the show. Is that it doesn't follow a traditional alien invasion arc. So let me give you a little spoiler.
There's no actual invasion.
There is an invasion, but there's no actual aliens that show up in the book. Like they're there, but
my money back.
You don't actually see the aliens in book one. And so here Sean's back. So I was talking about the atypical invasion story, and you don't actually see aliens in book one. And so what's funny is there are some people who are diehard sci-fi alien invasion fans, and they say, wow, this sucks. Like 1 star. Why are there no damn aliens in this? And then what's funny is that we'll see 5 stars that say exactly the same thing. I'm not an alien invasion reader. I feel like this has been done to death. And so I liked that this was not first and foremost about aliens.
Will that person be disappointed when they get to the second book and there are aliens? They'll be, oh, damn it was so good. Then you brought the aliens in.
What's funny is I think that there was a review in Colonization, which is book 3. And Colonization, but like you refer to some of the Yesterday's Gone seasons as the Mauricio show. Well, Colonization is the alien show. Like it's all aliens all the time. Like that. And there was I remember one review at least, and maybe more than one, that said, yeah, I was really digging this, and now there's just fucking aliens everywhere. I'm like, okay, so how do we win here?
You got to match reviewers up.
But I think that's the thing. I think winning is creating the art that you want to create, staying true to your voice, and pleasing your core readers. Because there's going to be so for example, am I skipping out as much, guys? Or am I
not so far?
Okay, awesome. So the other day I saw a preview for the new Spielberg film, and it looked a little boring to me. I'm sure it's going to be awesome. Like I'll see it for sure, but I wasn't that excited about it. And he's had a few movies like that where there tend to be his more serious movies, like Empire of the Sun is a good example. I know it's a great
No movie. Aliens at all in that.
There are no aliens there. Well, you find out at the end that Christian Bale is actually an alien. But
is there a sun? Because do you remember there was a Simpsons episode where they came out of Naked Lunch, and Nelson goes, I can think of 2 things wrong with that movie.
Awesome. So I'm one of those people. I love Spielberg, and I will give anything that he does a chance, because I know that he's always kind of staying true to his artistic vision. And he screwed up a few times, but whatever, like I like him as an artist, and I wish I was more excited about his newest movie. Oh, by the way, he's making Ready Player One. Did you guys know that?
I did not know that.
No.
Yeah, Spielberg's making Ready Player One for next year. That should be kind of cool. But it's okay that I'm not that excited. I'm still going to see it. I'm still going to give him a chance. But what Spielberg has with me is ultimate faith that at least his movie's going to be interesting, and at least it's worth exploring. Am I going to love every single one? No, but I trust him as an artist. And I think that's what you want more than anything, is trust as an artist, that the people who love you will check out all your work. Stephen King, do I love every one of his books? No, but I think he's a really interesting author, and I'm always curious.
What's the just to bring it back to center? What's the angle there on the story that's been told before and finding your new?
You can't worry about what other people are doing. You have to worry about what you're doing. And I think that a lot of artists, a lot of creators, period. But I think this is probably more true with writers than anyone. We're afraid that we're going to copy someone else inadvertently. And I think that instead, it's important to know that you are going to kind of copy a little bit, and that's okay.
I do it overtly.
Yeah, right. You want to wear it on your sleeve, and I love the way Tarantino does it. He's so loud and proud about it. Now, this is different than plagiarizing. You never, ever want to plagiarize. That's something totally different. That's taking somebody's work and claiming it as your own. and that's stealing, that's theft, that's different. This is where you're saying, you acknowledge that, you know, you're borrowing from this and you're borrowing from that, and it's definitely, I think doing it blatantly is a new thing. Do you guys remember when Scream first came out?
Yeah.
Yes.
And the whole vibe of that movie was so different from any other horror movie, and it was
Well, it
because,
wasn't really a
Well-
horror movie.
I was actually going to say something different. I was going to say the vibe was different because it was the same as classic slasher movies in a lot of ways.
well, it acknowledged it. It hit the same beats, and it was. I mean, dude, I would disagree. Like it
was
is a
more
horror movie.
satirical. It was more satirical though. It was
That's
played
fine.
for laughs.
That's fine, but there still are scares in there. You know.
Well,
I saw-
yeah, I didn't say it wasn't, but it wasn't specifically a horror movie. If you were scared by Scream, then you need to go home and change. I don't know.
I disagree. I remember that movie being
so
being.
funny.
There was not one scary scene in that movie.
No, I saw that movie on opening night, and the crowd was scared.
They were all pussies.
Yeah, no, I gotta weigh in on against Dave on this one too. I
Yeah,
don't.
you're a
I think
pussy,
that's
too.
I think that's a horror movie. I think that
No,
it had
because-
satirical moments, but it
Yeah.
was a horror movie. That's
It's
my
a really
opinion.
good example of Dave letting his aesthetic dictate over what something is or isn't. It,
Oh, that's
It
what I
wasn't
was-
scary. It didn't work as a horror movie.
it didn't work for you as a horror
Well,
movie.
that's all that matters to me. It's my world.
But that doesn't make it not a horror movie.
Because I actually enjoy horror movies, and I know what a good horror movie is, and that
This
wasn't.
this
horror
was a popcorn horror movie. This was
Yeah.
a popcorn horror movie for the masses, and it was very effective at that.
It was self-aware. I think
was
was
very
the real
self-aware.
I
twist.
hate self-aware campy shit.
I love self-aware stuff.
I know. That's where you and I diverged.
This is why I like Tarantino. He is self-aware, and I think that's great. Now, does it have to work for everybody? No, absolutely not. But Scream worked for a lot more people than it didn't. At least that first one. And I think that's interesting. He wasn't. Kevin Williamson wrote that, right?
Yes.
Kevin Williamson.
And I do like him. I just.
He wasn't.
And the movie was okay for what it was, but I don't like it as a horror movie. I like it as a kind of campy, goofy movie. It was fine for that, but for a horror movie, if I want to be scared, I'm not watching that movie.
You know what I do when if I want to be scared, if we're talking about a real scare moment, it's sometimes I just think about I'm never going to get a book cover that I like.
So see,
Does that plague you guys too? It's just like I'm just I wasn't
Johnny,
scared by Scream, but this gets me.
It used to scare me. It used to scare me because there was that Dark Crossings collection we did, and we wanted a book cover that represented a bunch of short stories we had, and do it well and have like a really nice, scary sort of weird vibe to it, sort of like Twilight Zone. Sort of feel, and I had this idea in my head, and I could not pull it off. I couldn't find the right stock images. I couldn't put it together in Photoshop, and I'm a capable cover creator, but I'm not great. So what did I do? I went to
So
the
at this point,
professionals.
hold on, I just want to frame this. So at this point, your horror level is like a Clive Barker film, like an early Clive Barker film. Would you say that's the vibe right now, right?
It was like Hellraiser, and I was about to be ripped apart.
Okay, so and it stayed that way, right? It stayed horrifying. It stayed just like Hellraiser.
No, it did not. I found a solution, and that solution was our friends at 99 Designs.
Oh, fascinating! And that turned it to like a Scream type experience, say.
No, it was a great experience. And it was good experience. It wasn't a bad experience.
Oh, I was
I
going to
didn't leave
say
it- I
a
didn't-
light-hearted, satirical sort of
I
experience.
didn't leave the theater looking at my friends saying, "You guys actually like that shit?" No, this was a good experience, and it
You
was.
went to the theater with a friend?
I had friends at one time. Yes, I know that's a shock to you.
So,
So-
go ahead. There's more to this story. I love it. Go ahead.
Well, we got a great cover from a designer, and it's a designer that has actually worked in the horror field before, doing book covers for well-known authors. And that's the kind of professional design that you can expect when you go to 99 Designs. They have designers waiting to deliver the best design for you to make your book stand out. And our Dark Crossings book is absolutely beautiful.
So if you want a book cover experience that doesn't make you disrespect your friends,
Doesn't
like
make you scream.
Then you should go to 99 Designs.
Wow.
So go to 99designs.com/SPP. Use that link. You get the free Power Pack upgrade valued at, you guessed it, $99. And you start your design. They'll give you more designer time and attention, and more hands in the pot, which is great. So 99designs.com/SPP. I also like the part in that ad read where I was actually going to cut Dave off before the part where he talked about book covers. So call me crazy. I decided to just on the fly let him do that. Like, go on with your bad self. You want to talk about book cover design in the book cover design ad read, that's cool.
Well, we try and be a little professional.
No, we really don't. So anyway, so just reading the cease and desist from 99 Designs. Sorry, I was distracted. All right, so but there are a few.
They say, please stop comparing us to Scream. Nobody liked that movie.
I'm not going to obviously spoil the end that Sean and I have in mind for Invasion, but this is one where Dave
I'll be able to tell the ending by the name of the title.
That there was an invasion. That Dave raised a hand and said, "Just so you guys know, here's something where this has been done." And can you think of there've been several things like that? There've been several.
Oh yeah, well we can talk about a series that we did, that Sean and I did, that has been done, and we got reamed by some people.
What is this?
You don't know?
Are you talking about Z? But is
Z.
Is it because you said it's Hunger Games meets The Walking Dead in the description? Could that have
And
something to do with that?
1984. Yeah. Well, if we didn't say it, then we'd be accused of plagiarizing.
Right.
But what really annoyed me is that when we wrote that series, I had read exactly, I don't know how many chapters
5 pages.
I had read up until when the game started for the Hunger Games. That's all I had read of the entire series. And the only thing I stole from the series, other than the idea of a game, and that's not their idea alone, several other books and movies have done that, was the opening part where they all run to get the shit in the middle of the field. That's the only thing I took from the Hunger Games. Yet, if you look at our reviews, this rips off Hunger Games so bad, man. The whole book is Hunger. And I'm like, no, it's not, because I've seen the movie since then, and it's nothing at all like the Hunger Games.
It's nothing like the Hunger Games. That was a catchy, because we had written the pilot episode basically of Z when we first talked to 47 North. And that was the pitch that made them want to do it. We called it Hunger Games meets Walking Dead, which is very.
And they jizzed in their pants.
Yeah, it's right. It's just
You heard it here, folks.
It's a tagline, or it's a log line. It's Die Hard on a Bus, right? So it immediately gave us an entry point. Like, okay, this is what we can frame the story. It's basically zombies in a post-apocalyptic world with a game, but as Dave said, the stories have very, very few similarities. And people who give it a chance, like if you look at the difference between the first book and the second book, it's drastic. The first book people were willing to hate outright, just on principle. And I think it's like 3.9. It's across all Sterling and Stone books, it's the lowest rated. But if you look at the second one, it's like 4.7. Like, there's a huge, huge difference.
Well, I think the people that were turned off by the first one didn't bother to go on to the second one, so we weeded out a lot of those people right there.
Well, right, but that's exactly what I'm saying. Like, you're going to hit that, and you're going to turn off some people right away, and that's okay. Like, it doesn't make nearly as much sense to just try to please everybody, because it's just never ever going to happen. And you even look at
marriage advice too.
Is that going to be in How to Win Your Marriage?
Don't try to please anyone ever.
Chapter 4, How to Win Your Marriage. Don't try to please anyone ever. I like it.
Only yourself.
So when we came up with, I think the first time, this new Collective Inkwell title, I think the first time that we kind of brainstormed this out, Dave's big objection was, I don't know, it's kind of like this other book, which I thought only vaguely at the time. I actually think it's closer to a TV series than a certain TV series from the.
Well, we've talked about this
Early
publicly a little bit, so we can talk about that.
Oh, okay. All right, awesome. So, well, I don't know what our actual title will
Well,
be.
we're not gonna say a title because
Okay, all right, cool.
someone will
Okay.
take it and write a info product.
All right, so we have it's the book Every Day, which was Dave's favorite book of 2013, I think.
13,
And
14, I can't remember.
and he shared it with Johnny and I. We both read it. We both loved it. And Dave and I came up with a concept that was, I don't know, remotely similar.
Every day on a bus.
It was right. It was every day on a bus.
Well, every day is a lot like Quantum Leap, except without time travel. It's about a person that wakes up in a different body every day, and what they're going through, and it's a beautiful book. It was good for sort of like a light sci-fi sort of book. It hit those buttons, and it was very emotional book. A lot of feelings. You felt sad for this person's existence, that they could never like form relationships or fall in love because they were in a different body every day. And the story kind of starts out where they do fall in love with somebody and they start popping up in bodies around this person. And to me, the concept was just so awesome. And I was like, I want to write something like this, but not like I don't want to rip it off. I want to do something that's good. And if Quantum Leap didn't exist, then maybe I wouldn't even consider doing this, because I hate the idea of taking somebody else's idea. Even if I change it, I really don't like doing it. I like to think that my shit's original, even if someone can find something and say, well, this has been done. Like, I like to be original. I don't like to copy. And
But that's the whole point of this. Your voice is going to be original.
I know that. I'm just explaining my resistance. Of the three of us, I'm the one that least wants to copy, because I feel like because I am an artist. I know we're all artists, but I'm like old school, where like I don't want to copy or anything. I just want to think that I am a fucking creative genius, and I thought this shit up all by myself in a little bubble, informed by nothing or nobody ever.
Right, but that's not
I know
reasonable.
it's unrealistic.
The difference is that this was something you specifically read, and as you found out just recently, there were even more examples of this exact same.
Yes,
basic
two other writers have written
premise.
something.
Right, and I
one
bet
of
you
them
there's
reached out to me, and we had a conversation, and I was like, oh crap, I hope his book isn't like mine.
I bet you there's even more that you don't even know about.
I'm sure probably is.
You told me about one of your I don't want to give too much away here because whatever, this is in the story garden, but there was a story idea that Dave gave me a few years ago that was really great. It's one of his oldest gestating stories, and
Oh yeah.
and when he was all done, I said, oh, so that's the plot of, and it's this old video game it was basically the same exact plot as a video game that everybody listening to this has heard of. It was.
That pissed me off to no end. And plus, especially since my idea predated this video game by at least 10 years.
So, I don't think that that things are born in a vacuum in that way. And it's okay. I mean, right now, just the amount of stuff that I've read in my lifetime or am reading currently, or the amount of movies I see or TV I watch, like, it's impossible that all of that stuff isn't going to greatly influence what I want to create. Of course it does. It's all part of the creative DNA, and I think that running from that is way more dangerous than embracing it.
I'm borrowing from movies and books all the time. But it just depends. So the example we've given before, and this is really, really in your face, and it's not really exactly the same thing, but kind of it's the best example, is Unicorn Western. So, and if anybody hasn't heard this story, if you're kind of new to the podcast, there are 9 books in that saga, and each one of those books is based on the wireframe of a famous Western. So book 1 is the wireframe of High Noon. Book 2 is John Wayne's The Searchers. Book 3 is that Fistful of Dollars?
Yeah.
And so when I say the wireframe, what I mean is High Noon is your very, very, very classic Western trope where there's a sheriff in a town and a bad guy is coming and the sheriff has to protect the town from the bad guy and his men. And that's what happens in Unicorn Western 1. And so once we used that just as a common reference between us, we thought, well, this is kind of cool. And so we did a few things. Number one, we stared it in the face by naming a chapter in the book High Noon, because that's when the bad guys come to town in the movie and the book. And then in book 2, we said, well, that was kind of fun. Why don't we find a Western? Like, go out of our way. And they're on the move, and so we said, well, let's just do The Searchers. And in The Searchers, there's an abduction, and John Wayne is trying to catch up with the people who abducted these women, I think. And so we did something very similar and called a chapter in that book The Searchers. And the hardest one was The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. Trying to come up with a chapter name and something sensible with The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance was really, really hard, but we did it. Of course, the Liberty Valance
and 310 to Yuma too was
310 to Yuma was hard, but that's my favorite one. I think that's book 4. And so, but it really stares it in the face. But one of the things that I did consciously is I watched all of those movies and deliberately took little homage scenes. So one I think I've mentioned before is in the one based on what's the Magnificent Seven? So there's a scene in the Magnificent Seven where I forget who it is, Charles Bronson maybe, and he's whittling a whistle, and one of the town kids comes up and he gives him the whistle, and so I had Clint, our gunslinger,
whistle on your way to the grave,
do the exact same thing. And we did because I think it's touchstones and it's homage, and as long as you aren't, I mean, that's a very specific kind of thing that we're doing, but sometimes, like I said, I deliberately do it. One of the things I've noticed that I do, and it's the sort of thing I imagine you either love or hate, and we probably have a bunch of people who just think it's douchey and are tired of it in our books. Like, that's possible, but I'll bet there's plenty of other people who love it. Dave hates it all. He hasn't even seen it all. I'll actually reference right back to it. Like, there are scenes in The Beam where they're referencing shit that's, from now, and there's a character who's 130 years old or something, and he'll make reference to something contemporary to make an analogy or something.
Yeah, we do that a lot in The Beam, actually, because we have 80 years of distance, and that distance allows us to reference stuff that's right now. It would be a little cheesier if we did it right now, but
I think you stare it in the face. And it's when you accidentally, like when you pretend that it doesn't exist. Like if we made a reference to, Prince, I don't know, I'm just making this up, the singer, right, in The Beam, and just made the reference and walked away. By the way, I don't think we have, but if we did, well, there is a LL Cool J reference, but if we just referenced that and then walked away and that was it, then it would probably look like people would be like, what the fuck, why would they do this? But
Sean did that in White Space.
Did he? Well, but did he
made a reference to U2 singer Bono's glasses in White Space, and White Space occurs several years after anybody would know.
Oh, yeah, we had an argument about that. I still call bullshit on that. If you say Jackie O glasses, everybody knows what Jackie O glasses are. Same with
comparing Bono to Jackie O.
I'm saying that yes, people you get something becomes a cultural touchstone, and Bono glasses are one of those things. I think I would still say Bono glasses 20 years from now, and assume that my little circle of people would know what I'm talking about, and my language wouldn't change just because it's 20 years from now. I think that.
But you are old enough, so if I would actually take Dave's side if it was somebody young saying it who didn't have a reason to know it.
I think it was
somebody young.
No, I think it was John Conway.
And he's young.
Yeah, but he's also Hollywood. He would know that vernacular. Like it was true to the character.
The way that I tend to handle that, and again, this is probably something that people love or hate about our work, is I would probably have a character say something like, Bono, what the hell are you talking about? And then the other person would have to chide them for having no cultural sensibilities or something like that. But I would address it. Like I
Which
would
is
just,
exactly
Bono
what
is
was done in the
of our age.
Right.
which is exactly what was done in the LL Cool J line in the Beam.
right. I think the guy like made fun of the other person for not appreciating classical music. Was I think the line that we used.
Right.
No. One area that I know you guys will fucking disagree with me here, but what else is new?
What else
ready.
is new?
I think okay. I want to use Crash as an example. Now, my original ending of Crash, and the ending kind of drives the entire book. My original ending of Crash was very similar to a very popular movie that came out in the
Mhm.
90s. And I had conceived Crash before this movie came out. And when I went to this movie and I saw it in the theaters, I was just devastated because, like, fuck my book. Fuck my book. And had I stuck with
But that movie
ending,
doesn't have a dog, right?
had I stuck fuck you, had I stuck with my ending, even now, 20 years later, if I had stuck with that ending, there's no way that book would be well received as it is. People would destroy it.
Yeah, but I think that there's a difference between using the. I won't give away the ending that Dave is talking about, obviously, but let's just say that it's a twist, it's a revelation,
A
and
rather iconic one.
yeah, and I think that's different. I think that's like the difference between some actors who've been in various movies can play other roles, but Leonard Nimoy will always be Spock. Alec Guinness will always be Obi-Wan Kenobi. I think that the ending you're talking about is a special level of iconic, and yeah, if you go at that unadorned, people are going to say that.
Right. If we ended something with, the Statue of Liberty sticking up out of the sand,
I'm totally going to do that, by the way. I'll just look it in the eye.
that's a
That
problem.
could be a unicorn western ending.
Don't even. I'm not even kidding. Like I think that'd be funny.
That I would agree with you on in the right context.
Right, but you have to look it in the eye. You can't. And Crash
You have to
tonally
have AIDS.
that wouldn't have worked. So I think it's a matter of knowing tone, knowing audience expectation. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution. I think the big takeaway here is don't be afraid. Don't be afraid that somebody else has said that before. I can't say it in my way, because reinventing what already exists is one of the joys of being a creator.
Here's the difference I would make. So I actually agree with you, Dave. If you had used that ending, then I think that people would. But I don't think it would totally.
The book might be all right, but A, nobody would believe that I didn't rip off the movie.
Right.
And B, people would see it coming.
Right.
I agree, and I
agree with both of those things. But I think that that's a different class of. Here's a counterexample. So in the Beam, people jack into the beam. Like essentially, I actually do think I started using that terminology a little bit in book 3. Well, it's like in The Matrix, they jack into the Matrix. But even The Matrix is like if you look at William Gibson stuff like Neuromancer or Mona Lisa Overdrive, like they're jacking in. Like that's the same thing. And so everything, I think that a concept like that, which is part of the story and part of the scenery, is different from a twist that the whole book kind of relies on. And like if you had, if Z had been all about a contest where you have to fight children to children and there's one winner and then they, like literally a copy of the plot, then yeah. But it's not. It's the concept that you use. The concept was just there was a game. So I think I draw the line there.
Yeah, I think like okay, take something like zombie stories, right? Zombie stories. George Romero kind of changed that with the original Night of the Living Dead. And do you guys know about this? All about the copyright? Have we talked about this on the show before?
I don't think I've ever heard this.
I know we talked about it. I don't know if we can talk about it on the show.
How basically it was the studio made some sort of mistake in the way that the copyright worked. So Romero's version of Night of the Living Dead eventually became kind of like an open source thing that anybody could take his world and his concept of zombies and do whatever they wanted with it. And ever since then, like it's been There's just all kinds of zombie stuff, and nobody looks to think, oh, I can't make a zombie movie because I'm ripping off all that's come before. It's just the concepts get bigger and bigger, and from 28 Days Later to Resident Evil, like zombies just have a lot of different faces and a lot of different just versions of them, and nobody feels like they're copying that. And I think that this is a good example. The story that we want to do, I think more people would say, if they were going to say that we're ripping off Quantum, or we're ripping off something, I think more people would say we were ripping off Quantum Leap than this book. But even within that, oh my God, there's nothing like Quantum Leap. It's just the idea that one person can inhabit another person's body.
Well, the people who weigh in on your side in the Z debate say that Hunger Games ripped off Battle Royale, right? Which is true, or is not true, depending on how you look at it. But I think you can make the same argument.
Yeah, I don't think that is true. But if you do look at all the 1-star reviews on Hunger Games, so many of those people are saying, "Oh, she just ripped off Battle Royale." So, like,
we ripped off a ripoff.
Right. Like, it's just you. I just don't think you cannot let that paralyze you, because you're gonna find now, if you note for note rip someone off, then fuck you. Like, you shouldn't be successful.
How many fantasy books have ripped off Lord of the Rings?
Right. If you use it to
pretty much all of them.
If you use it to create your own world and your own ideas, then that's great. It's just it's kind of giving you a palette to start painting on your canvas, rather than just the naked space.
I think that yeah, I'm trying to decide where the line is on this. So I have a story. I have two. I can make the same argument both directions. So one of the comments I get a lot with Fat Vampire is similar to the comments that we get with Invasion, whereas people will say, well, the vampire genre is really tired, and I've heard the same story over and over again, and sparkly, desirable vampires who are just all beautiful, and this is a breath of fresh air because it's not that. And we hear that about Fat Vampire. But at the same time, so that's one argument, is the unique twist on an old tale. Like, that's taking a concept, the vampires, and spinning it. And actually, Sean and I are roughing out a zombie story now that has a twist like that, which I don't think I've ever seen before. But that said, when I went to publish Fat Vampire, I said, let me just do a search. And this is one of those things where, like, should I look or shouldn't I? And it just occurred to me, like, why don't I just search and see if anybody's ever done, if there's another title, Fat Vampire. Let me just Google Fat Vampire. Well, there is a title called Fat Vampire, and it's by Adam Rex, I think. There's one that's like an MTV VJ, and maybe Simon Rex, I don't know. But somebody Rex, and it's called Fat Vampire, and it's about a teen fat vampire. Like, he and it's not very well reviewed. Like, it just isn't. People are like, but this, I hate this book. And so, but that said, like, the concept had been done, and I just published it anyway because, like, what am I going to do? I'm not going to publish this book. Like, it has the same title. It's called Fat Vampire, and
Vampire.
Portly, yes. So that so there's that. But I think that even in that case, even where you say that it's the same concept, and it isn't totally the same concept, but it kind of, your voice still is different. It's like if two musicians sing the same song or something like that, like they're going to be different. They're going to be different versions, and you just say, well, it's the same song, it's the same melody, but I like this person's version better.
I think there's one area that, again, I know Sean will disagree because we've had this argument, but I think there's one area that you really, really need to be careful with here, and I think it's kind of knowing your genre, and this is one of the reasons, like, I'm nervous to write in fantasy, because I read fantasy when I was younger, and I've read a few since. I'm not as well versed as a lot of our friends are in it, and let's just say, for instance, I had this great idea, and I was like, okay, we write this book, and it's just like Game of Thrones, but we were like completely unaware of Game of Thrones. And we came out with a book that was just like Game of Thrones. We would get slugged.
What are the
by
possibilities?
fantasy
But that's such a fear-based argument. What are the possibilities of you don't read anything in the genre and you're going to come out with something that's exactly like something else in the genre, and it's going to be in
I've
such
seen it
a
happen.
it's going to be in such a similar voice that people are going to think you ripped it off.
Well, it
Give
doesn't
me
matter
an
if it's-
example. No, I want an example here.
It
You've seen it
doesn't matter if
happen.
it's a
No,
voice.
no, you've seen it happen. Let's hear an example.
I can't think of one offhand.
Of course you can't.
My memory's spotty.
It's a matter of scope.
No, but
If-
that's
if,
so
if
bullshit.
what is I don't actually I've never read or watched Game of Thrones, so I can't tell you. But like if The Matrix, I'm just pulling that. Like if you came up with and you said it had a series where people went into an artificial environment, like that's whatever. Like you can adapt that. Now if it's the exact same story, literally, I mean, The Matrix is the same arc as the Star Wars movies, and like almost note for note. And but it's a different environment, so it's the same story structure, but it's a diffdifferent environment.
Yeah,
but I
if
think
you
that
look at Matrix
yeah.
Revolutions, it is Return of the Jedi. Beat for beat, it's the same movie.
There's no Ewoks.
Can you imagine if there were Ewoks in
I
Revolutions?
think there should be Ewoks in Revolutions. That'd be kind of awesome. But it's the same structure, and you're going to see that. I still want to revisit this because I want to know what Dave's talking about. He's seen it happen, right? It's not. He's
Okay,
afraid.
invasion.
I actually do agree that there are scenarios here where you could fuck yourself up, but I think that they're incredibly unlikely. So if you weren't aware of The Matrix, because just to stick with that example, and you made a film where they discover that reality isn't real and it's actually an artificial environment. Sorry, I just spoiled The Matrix for everybody out there. That would be like that. If that was the major hook, like, oh, it's a computer program, like
Okay,
that
but
would
no,
be a
no,
problem.
you-
But that's really unlikely that you
Did
would.
you see
think
the
it's a hook,
13th
play
floor?
it as a hook. What?
Did you see the 13th floor?
Good God, no.
I did see the 13th floor. I don't remember thinking it was very good.
Yeah, well, it wasn't, but it was the same premise. Basically, they find out the world is made up and blah blah blah, and it was post Matrix, and it had some good elements. It just had poor execution, but somebody could have made that into a really good story, and I think that you could easily draw the parallel that okay, this was influenced by the Matrix, but I don't think you would say that it copied the Matrix at all. It was definitely influenced by it. Did you guys see Equilibrium by chance?
So Equilibrium.
It was one of my favorite terrible movies. Yeah, I love Equilibrium. It's awesome. It's a bad movie, but it's awesome. Definitely inspired by the Matrix, but doesn't rip the Matrix off. And I think that's the thing. You don't look. It's like that classic court case. I can't define pornography, but I know it when I see it. Right? This is like that. You know it when you see it. If you're doing something wrong, you know it. But see, Dave has nothing to worry about because Dave's compass is great. Dave isn't going to rip somebody off. He's going to tell his story in his voice, and it's going to be awesome. And the fact that he's even concerned about ripping somebody off is kind of tells you all you need to know. It's the people who are
our people that know us and are familiar with us, know that I have some creative integrity, but people that just find us in the Amazon bookstore, as happened with Z,
stop worrying about those
no,
people.
You know what? You know why I worry? You know why I worry about it? Because with Z2134, it was a big deal when it came out. 47 North launched it. It sold a lot to people we didn't know. So a lot of new people found us, and that was their first exposure to us. People that hated it and thought it was a ripoff will never read anything else we did, will never realize how original our stories are, and that hurts me. That pisses me off. That hurt us.
Okay, but if you're indie there are things you could do about it. We couldn't do anything. We couldn't change our product description. We couldn't do anything about it. We just had to let it go.
Right.
All right. So you as an indie author, you have so much control over what what perception is, what you say. You could put in an immediately on the first page an author's note before people even start reading. Like there's so many ways of looking objections in the eye and just addressing them and not allowing people to just think whatever. Okay, here's a good example. So in Invasion, there's something at the end that happens that a few readers seem to think was really tacked on. Like it was just an ending that we did that wasn't in any way
because the criticism is they say they wanted to make a sequel, so they'd concluded the story, and so they said, well, what can we just toss in here that doesn't make any sense and isn't coherent with the rest of the story so that they can have a sequel? That's what the detractors said.
And they also said that it was in no way consistent with the main character's behavior. And that's totally wrong. It's absolutely consistent with his behavior because that's what was built into the character. And if it's one of those perception things, if you're reading that ending as a tacked on ending, then it's inconsistent with its behavior. But if you know that is going to happen, which we did before Word 1, that ending was part of what
the point of the book was to get to that ending. That's what
the funny thing about that is I heard people talking about the ending, so I went ahead and skipped to the ending because I knew I wasn't going to finish because we had to start with Yesterday's Gone. And I went ahead and skipped to the ending because I was like expecting this totally out of left field ending. The ending was exactly what I thought you guys would have done because I know you said
right. So like whatever, like it was the ending that was always supposed to be there. But we saw these reviews coming in where that was a major criticism. So we looked it right in the eye, and because we're indie authors and we're able to do this, we wrote an author's note that explained the ending, which like honestly, I wish we didn't have to do that because I wish that the work, stood on its own and people understood that. But I also understand that sometimes you just want to point them in the right direction and explain that because it heightens their enjoyment of it and it makes them more eager to read the next book and all of that.
Being responsive to fans, and that's good.
Right. So Dave and I had the same thing. At the end of Yesterday's Gone season 3, we didn't do enough epilogues. We kind of just ended it because we had a lot of reasons for it. But basically, our fan reaction on that was not good. We immediately got a lot of 1-star reviews on Yesterday's Gone season 3, which is a good season. But they were coming in, and we were like, holy crap, we thought we wrote the hell out of this. And, those bad reviews were coming in, and we responded to it immediately. We added about several thousand words worth of epilogue, posted the new one, got rid of the original version, made sure all of our people on our list had a new, fresh version, explained what we did, and now it has great reviews because we could be responsive. So I think that's it, Dave. Like
the irony, or I don't know if that's the right word for it, but the funny part about that is that originally I was going to write those extra epilogues, and I felt that's too much. We'll let the readers kind of,
But we kept thinking about Return of the King. We thought we don't want a Return of the King situation.
Which has about 10 epilogues.
And
right.
I've done that twice with 2 different series with an ending like that, where I've shortened it, respecting the audience intelligence, and that they'll figure that they'd want to figure it out. But in both cases, I was wrong. They didn't want to figure it out. They wanted it spelled out for them because I guess they don't like ambiguous endings. So that's something I've learned.
So we spelled it out with Yesterday's Gone. We spelled it out with Invasion, and that's great. Readers like it more. So
now with Invasion, we spelled it out in a note. So we didn't actually add an epilogue.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
Because it's within context. I think that you guys hadn't wrapped up the threads, and we had wrapped up the threads, but people were like, well, I don't get it. And so we needed to explain that a little bit.
So I think that the whole point is you can't be afraid and have enough faith in your readers and your audience that you can address that. And it's we do have that power as indie authors. We can go. I mean, to this date, we can't change anything about Z. We can't go in there and put author's notes in. We can't change the product description. We've asked, we've tried. It just that property is what it is. Which is unfortunate, but whatever. Like we live and learn, and I think that you can't be afraid of what influences you, and just know that maybe you have a bigger job to do as far as communicating with your reader, but you should be doing that anyway. That's what separates you, your voice.
All right, so at this point we'll bring this episode to a close. For those of you who are live, we do have a few live viewers. We will actually be airing a second episode later today at 3:30 Eastern because we're racking them up, getting ready for Sean's vacation. Where he's going to be.
We'll be off for like a month.
Well, I know it'll be crazy. So that you live viewers are just going to have to suffer, unfortunately. But blame Sean. All right, so this has been the Self-Publishing Podcast. If you, what's a good call to action? I don't know. Check out Write, Publish, Repeat if by some chance you've been listening and haven't picked that up yet. It's selfpublishingpodcast.com/WPR. Thanks a lot, guys, and we'll see you next week or in a few hours.